Welcome to the Guiding You Forward podcast presented by Mountain America Credit Union, where we talk about all things financial related. And today's no exception because we're talking about budgeting. And thankfully we have Cassandra with us. Hi, Cass.
Hey there.
But you guys stick around because we're talking not just about budgeting, but your psychological barriers to budgeting. And you're going to want to hear it all. So hit that notification bell, subscribe to our channel, and Cass, let's get into it.
All right.
One thing when it comes to budgeting that I specifically remember, being in a finance class in college, I had this professor and he had, been in the private sector for a while and came back, after he made all his money and wanted to teach college. But one thing that he talked about was, regardless of the amount of money you make, you have to make sure you're not living paycheck to paycheck, and had shared like an experience of some of his colleagues that, were making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year and still living paycheck to paycheck. But, their kids all drive Lexuses and, all the amazing luxury cars that many of us can only dream of. And so anyways, what are your thoughts? Why is managing money such a struggle for so many of us?
Yeah, that's a good question. And that's actually something that I see pretty often when I coach people is people are making a good amount of money, but they're still struggling to find fulfillment and happiness, as well as making it beyond paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of different barriers that can get in the way of that. One of the biggest barriers that we see is money scripts. Have you ever heard of this before?
No. What is a money script?
A money script is an interesting idea. It's essentially our beliefs and our ideas about money.
Okay.
So I'll give you an example of this. What do you think of when I say the word budget?
I think of like a spreadsheet and having to go and look at all my transactions and how much money I spent on things that maybe I shouldn't have, right? I don't know. I think of like being babysat or micromanaged, or that's what I think of when I think of budgeting.
Yeah. I've also heard people equate budget to the word diet. In some cases,
or restrictive.
There's a sense of restriction and tracking closely and frustration, right? And so when we have those feelings, even not just thoughts and behaviors, but even feelings, that is part of our money script.
Okay.
So to kind of draw this out a little bit more, what are some things that you've heard people say about that maybe are examples of money scripts?
So maybe something like, oh, I have, champagne taste.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
yeah.
I like expensive things, Cass.
I can't help myself.
I can't help it.
Yeah.
I love it, right? I want to drive a Lexus. I want the Lamborghini. Maybe also, I'm just not good with money.
That's a common one that I hear all the time, especially when it comes to budgeting and saving. I don't even bother with budgeting because I'm not that good at money. And so those are great examples of money scripts.
Okay.
Money scripts are not just our thoughts and our attitudes about money, but it's also our beliefs about money. So one of the things that I see pretty often when I talk to people is I should be doing this or I should be doing that. And that is actually part of our money scripts, these beliefs. And the interesting thing is that we encounter some kind of frustration or even dissonance, that negative feeling of like, I know I should be doing this, but actually what I'm really going to do is something else. And as we encounter that can be really frustrating to experience. And in many cases, we get so frustrated and overwhelmed, we just quit. We don't do it anymore. We're like, fine, I don't need this budget.
I'm just not even going to budget.
I'm
bad with money. I'm always going to be bad with money. So I know I'm going to be in debt.
What's the point, right?
Okay.
So as we experience these things, it's important for us to just stop and think,
okay.
Especially with our money scripts and trying to understand where those things are coming from, asking yourself questions like, what is it that I believe about money? What are the things that I think I should be doing or I shouldn't do? What do I do on a regular basis that maybe isn't the best for my finances? And where did that behavior come from? In a lot of cases, our money scripts are developed when we're young, and we often inherit them from the people that raised us. So if your parents believed in a certain thing, or they thought something else was bad, you likely have inherited that belief as well. And it will continue to be there until you investigate it and you challenge it for yourself, asking yourself questions like, is this really true? And if I believe it's true, what ways am I seeing it in my life to verify that it's actually happening?
Okay, so Cass, are you telling me I've already ruined my kids?
No, not at all.
I sure hope not. But, you know, with that, what are your thoughts as far as parents go and how they're influencing, you know, their children's behavior and their future money scripts or beliefs or thoughts that way?
Absolutely. And so I think that's where it becomes really important for us to spend the time and really think about, what do I believe and how do I behave with my money? And as you think about your children, not just thinking, how can I influence them going down, but how is what I'm doing, which is generally automatic and happens in our subconscious.
Yeah.
How is that all affecting my children and what they might do in the future?
Okay. Love that. Good grief. We're getting deep today.
We're getting deep.
I love it. So as we're thinking about these money scripts and our beliefs and thoughts and all of that around it, obviously these have a direct effect on our financial success.
Yes.
So what are our steps here that we need to take? What do we need to do to either overcome them, rewrite the scripts, or in your mind, I don't know, push them to the side and create new ones?
So spending some time in reflection. And what I mean by that is actually thinking about those questions. What are my money scripts? How are they impacting my success? Do I believe that they're actually true? And if they are, then, in what ways are they manifesting in my life?
Okay.
Or what ways am I seeing that to be true in my life? So really concrete examples, not just, oh, my friend down the street believes X, Y, and Z, and so therefore I believe it too.
Okay.
That make
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. So we need to identify those in our own life.
Yeah.
And figure out what they are. Can you give us some more examples of what that looks like and how it might affect our financial success? Like if I always think I'm bad with money and I just think that all the time, it really is just going to be true.
Sure. And so I, as a coach, I would ask you, well, what ways have you been successful?
Okay.
Tell me about some times when you have had success, even if it's just brief.
Yeah.
Finding those small wins and then dissecting them. What were you doing in order to be successful with that? And what happened after that maybe took you off of that or took you away from that?
Yeah. Okay. I love that. One question that I have, because I have, we're on this podcast frequently and we hear all these, hey, do this, do this, do this. One thing, because you asked the question, so I'm going to answer it. One thing that I remember is just automate your savings.
Yeah.
Right. Automate it. Just make it happen. So regardless of, if you've got a mortgage to pay, student debts to pay, credit card bills to pay, whatever it is, just make savings a habit, regardless of anything else. And I've taken that advice. I've done that. And it is crazy how fast that can add up.
Yeah.
Right. Even if, there's still other things that we have to work on, right? We're not perfect by any means.
Of course.
I for sure am not, but I have been surprised, just taking the time to just every paycheck, there's just, those additional savings accounts that I'm just funneling funds to. And oh my gosh, it's made such a difference in my savings goals.
Yeah, I don't
know.
A couple of years ago, I started doing the same thing. And one of the things that has been really incredible about it is I know for me, one of my barriers to savings for a long time was the fact that I had to think about it. And if I allowed myself to think about it for too long, it started to become, well, I want this thing and that would be nice eventually. But in this moment, this is what I want. I want this awesome shirt from my favorite store that's on sale right now. And I can't miss that opportunity.
Yeah.
And that would compromise my savings goal. So the beauty in automation is that you don't even have to think about taking that money out of your sum over here and putting it into your savings. It's already done and you don't have to feel any feelings about it. You don't have to think about how you would have rather spent that money elsewhere because it's just there. And to your point, watching it build over time is so it's so satisfying.
Yeah.
Like it's one of my favorite things ever to log into my accounts and see that money transfer over and have not even had to think or feel about it. And ta-da, like here it is. It's there when I need it.
Yeah, I love what you said about not only do you not have to do it, you don't have to feel it.
Yep.
Because that is a big piece, right? Of all the decisions that we make throughout the day. Holy cow.
Yeah. And money is such an emotional thing. It's so interesting once you start to recognize, every day in your financial decisions, how much your emotions are actually tied to it. It can actually give you some clarity as you prepare to make those decisions.
Okay, so any advice for us? We know you're a financial coach. For those of us that maybe our emotions maybe are out of control, but they're definitely there when it comes to money. Obviously, be aware of our money scripts. What else do we need to do?
Yeah, I would say be aware of the way that your brain processes information and makes decisions.
Okay.
So I'll give you an example. One of my favorite things to do is stop at Beans and Brews on my way to work.
Yeah.
I grab my drink on the way, and I get so much joy out of getting to have that on the way to the office. And one of the things that I've had to do is I've had to stop and think about why that's such a thing for me. Because it is costing me, if I come into the office 3 to 4 times a week and a coffee costs $3, like that adds up very quickly if you do that a lot over time. And so one of the things that I've had to do is I've had to stop and kind of dissect, like, what is happening there? And what I realize is that there's a part of my brain that's responsible for thoughts and habits and emotions, and that motivation. And I've had to kind of check in and say, like, what is happening here? And what it is I'm usually hungry because I didn't eat breakfast before I left. So I grabbed my sandwich. There's a feeling about being able to bring that cup of coffee in with me. Like I took the opportunity to take care of myself. Like I got to come to the office today and I had to get ready and I deserve it. And so it's a treat yourself kind of moment. And so it's something as simple as going through the drive-through can really feel like very emotional and can have that impact on us.
Interesting. That's incredible. That's incredible. I mean, I think there are so many examples as I'm thinking of things that I do, right? Like whether it's the coffee or the Dr. Pepper, not that we have to focus on drinks, right? Getting the new pair of shoes, whatever it is a reward. How do we then figure out, is it just really coming back to values? Like I don't know.
Yeah. How do we get back to making a decision that keeps us on track? That's a great question. So there's a couple of different things that you can do. There's something that you can do on a regular basis that just kind of helps keep things in the front of your mind so that when you have that feeling of, gosh, I could just use a new pair of shoes, or I've got an email that says my favorite company has 40% off on this item that I've been thinking about buying, but I haven't really felt like I have to go. And suddenly I have to go. There's a couple of things we can do with that. So the first one is to just spend time regularly in reflection. And what I mean by that is spend time thinking about, what are the things that are important to you? We have this model. It's called the why, the what, and the how. Okay. So really starting with what do I value? What is most important to me? And then also kind of tweaking our thinking a little bit about money and thinking about how do I use my money to become the person that I want to be. Instead of just a means to an end or getting to the next payday or the next mortgage payment. How do I become what I want to be and use my money as a tool to help me get there?
I love that. So what we're becoming. It reminds me of a book that I've read. It's called Atomic Habits by James Clear. Have you read that book? And he talks about, right, actually your daily habits are more about the person that you identify yourself to be.
Exactly.
So going back to our money scripts, is it just manifesting it every morning I wake up, I'm good with money? And I become that?
You absolutely could do that. So in our why box, what I would say is, let's say, for example, I'm somebody who wants to be financially secure. I value security. I value family. I value adventure, for example. What that becomes in terms of my why is I want to be financially independent and secure. I want to have the money to provide for my children for the things that they need. I want to be able to create memories with my children and have money available so that we can go on vacations and use that money to help create some of those memories.
I love that.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. When it comes to some of this too, and really becoming, right, who we want to become, what we want to become, and obviously money is going to help us get there because it's a means to an end, right? But talk to me about expectations. Anything as far as expectations or barriers that we need to be thinking about?
Yeah, again, we've got a few. So in addition to our emotions, which can easily take over, one of the things that we can run into is setting unrealistic expectations for ourselves.
Okay.
So this isn't just, saying I want to save $10,000 in 3 weeks. Like, yes, of course, that's an unrealistic expectation for ourselves. But when we start to think about the things that are coming up, we can avoid setting unrealistic expectations for ourselves if we start to plan for those things. So one of the things that I share with people a lot is, we fail to plan, a lot of us, for things like when the tire blows out, right? If the tire blows out, that is usually referred to as an emergency expense. But I'd like to challenge that. I would tell people that is probably an upcoming expense because eventually you're going to have to replace the tires on your car.
Okay.
Same thing with children's clothes. We know with kids' clothes, children are growing fast, and it's not a matter of if we're going to have to buy clothes. It's usually a matter of when we're going to need to replace those little shoes, right? And so we can set realistic expectations for ourselves by knowing that those things are going to come up, and we need to have a plan to pay for them so that it doesn't derail us from our budgets. If we're setting $20 aside every paycheck, again, that money grows very quickly over time. And before you know it, you'll be able to buy a new pair of shoes without having to change anything about your budget. And you'll just be able to go. It won't be a stressful thing. It's there when you need it. And it's really great for peace of mind and to help manage those emotions. I
love that. How cool. So when it comes to making these little changes, right? And obviously when it comes to budgeting, I think, for me, the biggest barrier is, I've got to track it, right? Same thing with dieting, right? I got to track it. We got to know how many calories are going in and coming out and all of that. And it's just, I don't have time. It's too overwhelming. What advice do you have for someone feeling that way?
Well, there are lots of ways to track, and it's a really cool thing. So I usually recommend apps like Mint, Every Dollar, You Need a Budget. There are tons and tons and tons of apps for budgeting. That can work really well for some people. They like the simplicity of plugging in their existing accounts and using those. Another thing that a lot of people don't take advantage of is the apps that are built into their mobile banking. So, for example, Mountain America, we have a great mobile banking app. I would equate it something similar to like what you would see on Mint. It's free. You don't have to do any additional integrations. And for people who are concerned about security, that's a great way to address that concern.
Okay. Yeah.
So it will track what's coming in, and then it tracks it going out, and it will give it a category. In a lot of cases, sometimes you have to go back in and fix the category to make sure it tracks correctly. But it just makes everything really simple. And if you're a visual person, meaning you like to see those pie charts and stuff, that's a really great way to be able to see that information.
Okay. So what are some other small tweaks we can make to our daily habits just to help us with success that way?
Yeah. So as James Clear mentions, it's really important for us to start small. When you create a budget, please don't go in and just like completely overhaul and say, I'm going to, put all this money towards savings and we're never going out to eat again. Because more than likely, you will not be able to adhere to that. And if you are able to adhere to it, if you are used to these other habits like going out to eat, you'll probably be miserable and not want to stick to your budget.
Yes, we need our beans and brew.
Yes,
right?
we need the beans and brew stuffs.
Yes.
So I would say that that's the biggest thing, is just to start small. And once you conquer one small change, then work towards the next. So what I would say is it could be something even as small as just starting out with checking your balance every single day on your account. Knowing where you are creates a really good sense of accountability, especially when you run into those difficult decisions where your emotions may try to take over. Another thing that can, if you're already checking your balance on a regular basis and you feel good with that, maybe the next step then is to automate those transactions, like payments to debts or, bills. You could also automate your savings. So, just setting up those things. One of the things that I love about having my banking things set up with Mount America is just the ability I have to go in and create those secondary savings accounts.
Yes.
I have 9 of them.
Awesome.
I'm not afraid to tell anybody that. People look at me like, wow, that's a little weird, but it really does help me just keep track of where money is going. And like I said, plan for those upcoming purchases. So, I have one for kids' clothing. I have one for vacation. I've recently found that I will see community posts pop up on social media from, people in my neighborhood who need help, or, the occasional GoFundMe opportunity. Right. And my heart can't take it to pass it up. And so instead of like derailing my budget, I've actually started setting aside money just for that. And it goes into a secondary savings account labeled giving. So
cool.
There's different things like that you can do. And with those accounts, they're very customizable. And so that's something that I recommend a lot.
I love that. And when it comes to these small habits, I know I think I've heard you talk about this before. So tell me about, like, let's say I want to check my account every day and this is a new habit I want to build. Tell me about habit stacking.
Yeah.
What is that? What is that strategy?
So habit stacking is this concept where James Clear talks about this. He encourages you to make it very easy to implement your habits, because when they're easy, it's just, if there's no barriers, there's nothing to overcome, you just do it and move on with your day. So what I would say is, if you're wanting to look at your balances, depending on what your day looks like, it might make sense. I know for me personally, I wake up and the first thing I reach for is my phone. Like, well, what did I miss while I was asleep?
I think that's a lot of us, unfortunately.
Right?
Yeah, we're addicted to those things.
We're attached to our phones. And so something that might be helpful is when I reach for my phone, I open it up and my Mountain America app or my financial institution app is right there, so that I get the cue to open the app and I can look at my account balance and then move on with my day. Maybe that doesn't work. Maybe you're up and you're chasing kids around the house to get them ready for school. That's a possibility too, right? And so maybe it is when I sit down for breakfast, I can open up my phone and check that before I eat or after I eat, different things like that. But just the idea of habit stacking is really slide that habit in somewhere where you're already in the middle of habits. And as you practice it over time, it will just kind of become automatic, like everything else you do.
Yeah, I love that. I love how you said less friction, right? Because that's really what it is, right? We don't want to start tracking a budget because, it seems so hard and time consuming and not cool, and I don't want to track it, right? But simple as that. I love that. I love that. Well, Cass, thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you for joining us as well. And we will see you all on the next episode of Guiding You Forward.